And Bolanle Austen-Peters joins me now from our Lagos studios. No better way to go into the weekend. We are so happy to have you, Bolanle Austen-Peters, on the show today.
It's my pleasure.
Great. Let's start with a personal question and your personal background. I'm curious to know how this came about, because I understand you had a law background, you read law. What made you go from law into theater?
Essentially, I guess I'm following my passion. I've done this now for about 18 years, so being called a lawyer is almost something I'm not used to anymore. Yes.
So you just went into it. Your father is a senior advocate of Nigeria. And I think I read you worked in his law firm briefly before working with the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights in Switzerland, and the rest, they say, is history. But what was his reaction when you told him you were quitting his law firm? How did the family receive the news? Did they have to set up an intervention for your decision?
I think everybody, the average Nigerian, they always ask this question. How come, why did you leave law to start a cultural space? My dad obviously didn't really understand what I was doing, but a couple of years down the line, he's really proud and happy that I stepped out of law practice to do what I'm doing now. He's seen the impact. He's seen what we've been able to achieve as a company. He's seen how we've been able to sell the Nigerian brand and our culture internationally and locally. And he's ever so proud. So, I mean, not that I knew where I was going exactly, but I'm glad that I took the plunge. And yeah, we are where we are today.
Indeed. And can I ask you, has law in any way had an impact on what you're doing today?
I'm not quite sure, but you know, the study of law actually just expands your ability to deal with human beings generally, because it's really about contractual and social interactions. That's what law teaches you. So it's been useful. I don't regret that I studied law and I practice law, but I'm happy at doing what I do now.
It's good to be glad with what you're doing. And you've done this for almost 2 decades, if I'm not wrong. Let's talk about the culture of stage plays or stage entertainment among the populace, among Nigerians. Would it be correct to say Nigerians prefer the cinemas to stage entertainment?
You're absolutely correct. I mean, I think what it is first is the cost of putting together a stage production is very high. The infrastructure required as well, you know, theater spaces, we have very few theater spaces that are well equipped. So naturally, it's what people can access that they would probably like. But since we started doing theater, we found out that if you do things the way Nigerians would probably enjoy it, you'll get a lot of followership. So what has happened over the past couple of years is we've had thousands of people coming to our shows. I mean, at times, over the Christmas holidays as an example, doing Death and the King's Horseman, over 9 days, we got close to 16,000 people coming through the doors at Terra Culture. So I guess it's really about what people can access and the quality of what they can access. Yeah.
You're right, indeed, because, you know, stage plays used to be popular in Nigeria way early in the days, 70s and 80s,
Precisely.
Before the military regime came and clamped down on practitioners. But would you say that it has regained its lost glory or is still struggling?
I think people are actually enjoying it. I mean, if you go to Freedom Park, there is an arts festival that we have regularly now, theatre arts with the British Council. We take Nigerian plays abroad. We've been to South Africa, Egypt. We just came back from Dubai, London. So it's people do enjoy it when they get the opportunity to see it. The reality is that they don't have that much opportunity, and I think that's what it is.
Bolanle, stay with us. We'll go on a quick break and we're back to talk. Okay, I do hear we still have some more time. Let's talk about the success of Nollywood. That has come at the expense of the theatre industry, wouldn't you say?
I'm not sure you're pitching one against the other. The important thing is the Nigerian arts and culture is being told and sold, and that people are enjoying seeing themselves replicated on stage or on the screen. Because of the virtual space that movies enjoy, it's easy for people to access it. You can sit in your house and watch a movie. With the advent of platforms such as Netflix, etc., you also are in a position to just download anything from all over the world. So it's easier to access, like I keep saying. With stage, you have to physically go to a space and buy a ticket to see it, and it's also not there permanently. So the permanence of it also is an issue. It's something that is there today and not there tomorrow. So that's what I think is the issue when you compare both. But Nigerian movies is doing very well as well. As you're aware, we're in both spaces. I direct both stage and movies. This year, this past 12 months, I've done 3 movies that are coming out soon. One, Collision, loosely based around the travels of a policeman and a young Nigerian. And also another one called Man of God, which is a satire of people who call themselves men of God and who probably are not. And then, of course, there's the biopic on Bolanle Austen-Peters, which I'm doing with the estate of Bolanle Austen-Peters.
Interesting. I do hear we have a trailer for Collision, so let's take a look and we're back to talk some more about it, Bolanle.
See my life. See where person they live. See how people they live.
Magnus, may I tell you something? I dey carry my children go my papa house. He don't do.
Wait now, I can't stop. But I dey promise you say everything go soon.
Magnus, like see I fit slap you. I go copy one slap.
Music is my thing, Dad. It's my passion.
Passion has not ever put food on anybody's table. Look at you, entitled generation.
This life must balance. Things supposed to change.
Now one family will be, and now only one thing they make us strong. Trust.
Yes, now. Yes, trust. That one easy now.
This is fascinating, Bolanle. I'm itching to see what this collision is all about, but some scenes are familiar there. I see a marriage that isn't working. I see a police barracks, a dilapidated, situation of living for the Nigerian police force, personnel. But without revealing much, tell us in summary what Collision is about.
I think what we try to do with Collision is to basically depict the brutalization of the average Nigerian psyche. We're looking at the policeman's angle, where what he's, like you rightly said, his realities are his daily realities, and the reality of the young Nigerian who also is just trying to get on with life. And what happens when both worlds collide is exactly the story that we're telling in there. We talk about a lot of things that have collided, marriages, husband and wife situation. We talk about father and son colliding. We talk about, a young man who wants to pursue a career in the arts. And typically, like you were saying about my dad and myself, the resistance of the older generation to understand that maybe the workspace has actually changed, and maybe the type of work or jobs available for the younger generation is somewhat different from what they are used to. So there is that collision. Also a young man who is trying to make his way through life in Nigeria, a young man who's just graduated from England and trying to integrate into the system and colliding with the system. And then the policeman who struggles daily to make a living and looking at his backstory. So what we've done there is to showcase what happens when these two worlds collide. And that's why it's called Collision.
And can I just say thank you for telling the Nigerian stories and telling them so well, Bolanle. But we're going to flip between the stage and Nollywood because you do both. So let's go to stage. Olurumbi, Saro, Waka, Moremi, Fela, and the Kalakuta Queens. Forgive me if I've left anyone out. Which would you say has been the most difficult for you to produce, most tasking, and why was that?
I would say the first one. You know, when we started this journey, there was no blueprint, there was no template. I dreamt of doing musicals, and I decided that I wanted to do a musical without the training or the background or the knowledge, really. So it was extremely tough putting together the team, the funding, and to getting people to understand what I was thinking. So you can imagine what we went through. Putting together a production then that was over 100 cast and crew. It had never happened really in terms of that kind of size, and the funding and the storytelling. But thereafter it became easier and easier and easier. And when we did Death and the King's Horseman as an example this Christmas, a lot of people asked, how long did it take me to direct? And at times I feel uncomfortable telling people that it took me a week because I understand how to direct now. And it's about storytelling. It's about understanding the emotions that you're trying to get out. And it's about connecting with the public, letting them understand what you're trying to tell. So long as people can feel what you're trying to convey, then you have been able to deliver the message accurately.
Relatable. So now let's flip back to Nollywood. You ventured into movies. What sparked that interest? Were you tired of stage? Have you seen it all? You've conquered the world of stage? Or was this just for more money?
Can we ever conquer anything? No, I love stage. But you know, with Nollywood, it was interesting. I got into this space because a friend asked that I should produce 93 Days. I wasn't interested in movies at all. Having done 93 Days, I found it very interesting. And then I decided to try my hands on directing myself. So I directed Bling Legosian, which was a story that I created about lampooning of the social space in Nigeria. You know, all the parties and backbiting and all of that you see at parties in Nigeria. So that was what influenced my decision to direct Bling Legosian. And having directed Bling Legosian, COVID happened. And COVID taught us that with stage, everything that you do, you can lose it overnight because it's not in recorded format. So we decided that going forward, it's absolutely important that we got into a space that allows us to record our work. That's why we shifted and put a lot more emphasis now on doing more movie productions.
I'm glad you mentioned COVID, and thankfully we have the life-saving vaccines now. Economies and countries are reopening. But what has been the impact of COVID on your space? Theatre productions, movie directing and producing. How bad has it been? Or has there been any lessons learned? Can we spin this crisis to the benefit of the cultural space?
I mean, looking forward, if you look backwards at what happened during COVID, we were badly hit. As you're aware, the arts and culture space is very social, and most things are based on interaction. So we were on complete lockdown. Nobody was making any products, and people were not able to sell what they had done as well. But based on what I just told you earlier, for us, it's been a plus because it allowed us to sit back, reflect, and ask ourselves, what are we going to do in the future? And the future, therefore, was recordings and virtual spaces. So we decided that we had to go into the movie space so that we could have, for posterity, everything that we do will now be recorded. So that's one lesson learned from COVID for us. And for us, it's been a positive because now we understand movie making as well. And yeah, like I said, it's becoming easier and easier, and it's fun. I'm happy.
So, I mean, it is clear to the visually impaired that Bolanle loves what she does. She has passion for it. It's good to do what you love. But Bolanle, it's even fantastic. It's better when your passion pays the bills. Let's talk about how lucrative this is, or otherwise. When you look at the unemployment figures in Nigeria, it should be a source of concern to anyone. And it is often said that the cultural space, the cultural industry has the potential to absorb such a large number of young Nigerians. Do you agree? And what's holding back the industry?
I think that it's accurate to say that the arts and culture space has the capability of resolving a lot of unemployment problems that we have in Nigeria. If you take a look at the average Nigerian or young Nigerian, they're extremely creative. And the formal space, employment space, can probably not take up everyone. So if individuals or young people are encouraged to use their creative mind to create things, because really creativity, the art space is really about creativity, creating things, either content or using your hands to sew, to make clothes, anything that you're able to create fits into that space. And a lot of our young people are capable of doing this. So if I were to advise, my advice would be that government should do its best to ensure that that space is not heavily taxed, because taxation, a lot of us, for instance, our space, we're heavily taxed like everybody else. I mean, we're not saying we shouldn't pay taxes, but at times it's just over the top. There should be a lot more spaces that allows young people to congregate, theatrical spaces, as an example, galleries, and those who are into movies, studios. We need more studios. There's a lot more that can be done in that space. I think that government is trying to address it with schemes such as the National Theatre renovation. Hopefully, if things are done right, there will be a lot more facilities and infrastructure that people can use to practice their trade. But it is indeed a space that people need to focus on more and encourage those who are in that space.
And, you know, speaking about passion, money, taxes, and you know, what government can do, let's speak about you personally, Bolanle, because owning a business in Nigeria isn't easy. Owning any business isn't easy. And I imagine for you, it's not just cameras, music, light, action, is it? What's been the biggest challenge?
Oh, maintaining a space, like you rightly said. Running a business in Nigeria is tough. I mean, anyone who owns a business, we employ full-time about 70 people, but for every production, we have 100, 200 people, depending on the size of the production that we employ. So if you imagine if you expanded that and you allowed a lot more businesses to thrive like ours. But what we find is that we are constantly it's like an harassment, you know. Every day there's just something. You have to pay this, pay that. At times it can be frustrating. Yes. So for me, that is one major challenge that we face. I guess the other thing is just basic infrastructure. You know, the roads leading to where we worked here, Mu Savage. It's a nightmare getting there. You know, so little things like that just get to you. That if only things would work easier and better, it would just allow us to thrive more. And of course, I don't need to tell anybody about electricity. The amount of money that we use to generate power for our business, we cannot run this business without power. So having to run 4 generators to have a production, because you cannot run on NEPA, it just doesn't work. So these little things just tells you that a lot still needs to be done in Nigeria to ensure that businesses have that enabling environment to survive. And for as long as we don't have those basic amenities and infrastructure in place, it's going to be tough. And it's going to put off a lot of people from trying to run or own businesses.
Authorities in charge are listening. For instance, Mu Savage, the Lagos State government, that's an inner road, and there's a local government in charge of that road. But we do hope the Lagos State government is listening and watching, and they fix at least that, if that's the only thing that is done from watching Bolanle today on the show. Okay, so Bolanle, I do understand that this was the Dubai Expo version of the show, but tell me, what was the interest in Fela and the Kalakuta Queens?
So if you notice that a lot of my plays, I focus on women also and women empowerment. So Moremi, as an example, is a story of a strong woman, Olurumbi as well. Fela and the Kalakuta Queens was my own take on Fela's story. I wanted people to understand the role the women played in Fela's life. A lot of times, people don't even remember them. So I reached out to Fela's kids, children, Femi and Yeni, and the estate, and they were supportive and gave us the rights to showcase this play. So we wrote this play based on the role of the women, their dance, their relationship with Fela, yeah, that's really what it is.
How does it feel, being the platform for others to springboard, to tell the African stories, the stories that ordinarily, we overlook? How do you feel? Given the power of hindsight, do you have any regrets doing this at all?
Oh my goodness. On the contrary, no, I'm super excited about what I do. I'm happy. First, I'm happy that I'm able to create jobs. I created a lot of jobs for young people. I'm able to train a lot of young people. A lot of people get their talent honed at Terra Culture. I'm able to export Nigerian culture and our music, our dance, our fashion. When you experience some of our shows abroad, like in South Africa as an example, we had over 1,200-seater theater for 2 weeks, and it was filled out. And the sheer joy, that it gives you to see people listening and watching and enjoying something that you created. And that kind of feeling is intangible, knowing that you're selling your country with pride. Sometimes, once or twice, I won't lie, I've shed a tear when I'm abroad and I just watch the enjoyment on people's faces. So, for me, it's unquantifiable, the joy that we bring when we sell who we are to the world, knowing that we just have such a beautiful culture. That's what it is. Fela and the Kalakuta Queens, I think, has shown over close to 200 times now, and it's still going on. So we'll continue.
Are you surprised at the outcome? Because, again, you've done this for over 18 years. Are you surprised at the outcome when you see people react to what you do? Bolanle Austen-Peters production, locally and internationally acclaimed. Or did you always know this is what it was going to be? Did you envisage the reaction so far to this?
No, it's just, I think that we all agree, even as Nigerians, that we have a beautiful culture. It's about the packaging of it. A lot of times the way we package our products is not particularly appealing. But you can see what is going on now in the fashion space, in the music industry. Everybody is upping their game, and we're providing content that can rival anybody's anywhere in the world. The beauty of Nigeria is that we're extremely authentic, and we have such a massive pool to draw from. So all that we needed was just to do it right. And the minute we started doing it right, it's very satisfying to see the joy that we bring to people. And I think for me, that's more than gold.
Smiling from ear to ear. Let's take a break, Bolanle. When we come back, we'll talk about the pressure. How do you cope with the pressure? And it's a new year, 2022. What's in the works? That's after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. My guest today is director and producer Bolanle Austen-Peters, and as she is commonly called BAP, I guess that's BAP. I'll clarify that in a moment. She's largely credited with pioneering the national and international reemergence of the Nigerian theatre industry. But her plays aren't just purely about entertainment, they also address social problems. Waka the Musical, for instance, is about politics and corruption in Nigeria. Her partnerships with the streaming platform Netflix and her relevant, fun productions have cemented her status as a cultural mover and shaker. She is the queen of Nigerian theatre, a title she has rightly earned. Thank you so much, Bolanle, for staying with us. So let me quickly clarify that. Is it BAP or BAP? What they call you?
BAP.
BAP, great, BAP.
BAP.
I see. Great. So let's talk about standards, Bolanle, because you've done both worlds for stage plays And some would say that's more tasking because you cannot get it wrong. There's no second take or third take once it's live. You've also done Nollywood movie productions where Nigerians complain about the standards. Yes, we churn out a lot of movies, but sometimes we don't pay attention to details, the tiniest of details, Bolanle. How do you cope in that space? And for you, you've had all these acclaimed productions. How do you sustain the momentum? What's your secret? How do you keep the pressure?
I think in terms of standards, it's a personal thing, you know. You either have it or you don't. Some people do not want to improve. Even if you tell them it's not good, they would argue. But for me, I've always insisted that what I can't consume from another party, I shouldn't dish it out to the world. I have attention to detail problems. I'm very detailed. My team knows that about me. So, and it's precise from how you carry yourself and what you wear. It should translate into what you do for a living. So it's just a no-brainer for me. I do what I do at the highest level of excellence, and I'm not willing to compromise.
Are there instances, tell us about one time, I mean, you've had to shut down production or turn down a script or a movie production because of lack of attention to details or what it was going to be. Have you had that experience?
Oh, tons of times. I mean, the first thing is that you get invited to a lot of projects. The first thing is I look at the script. If the script is not up to par, I just tell them I can't. I'm sorry. Because you start from the script. If the script is bankrupt, it has a deficit, you're going to run into trouble. So that's a constant invitation that I get. But when I get on stage or when I'm shooting a movie, most people at times look at the funds and they also ask themselves, oh, maybe I should cut back because I'd rather make a loss than put out content that I know that later on I will regret. So I've made a lot of losses because I had to weigh between the opportunity cost of cutting back on cost or providing quality. I go for quality all the time. And what I found out about quality is that it might not earn you a lot at the present time, but you always reap it in the future. So I always go for broke. Let's do it. Let's do it right.
Bolanle, before I ask you for your New Year's resolution, if you have any, and your plans for the year, if there was a little girl or young girl watching you today and probably reading medicine because her father wants her to be a doctor just like him, or her mother wants her to be a banker or financial analyst like her, but she's not interested, she wants to be another Bolanle Austen-Peters or BAP, what do you say to her?
I think that first I'll speak to the parents. You know, we should encourage our children to be the best at whatever it is they choose to be. It's not a question of what we think they should be doing. We should look at their strengths and ask ourselves, do we think this child can thrive in this area? Because I think somehow inside of all of us is deposited some strength or ability that we all bring from wherever we came from. So it's important that parents look at their children and see what that child enjoys on a daily basis without any form of coercion or, you know, encouragement. You know, that's really what you're called to do. That thing that you love to do without anybody telling you to do. That's the first thing. The second thing is to the child, I'll say if you're able to convince your parents and you're also able to showcase your talent, you have to work extremely hard and just hang in there, because the problem also is a lot of people give up very easily. It hasn't been easy, and people look at me and think, oh, it's been a jolly good ride. It's been tough. We've had moments of doubt, we've had moments of failure, we've had so many things that could have knocked us down. But it's not about being knocked down, it's about pulling yourself up every time you're knocked down. And I think that's the message I'd like to give to the young ones, that don't be in a hurry to be successful. Keep doing what you're doing till you're the best at it. And nature has a way of rewarding you.
Indeed. Well said, Bolanle. So let's talk about your projects for 2022. Do you believe in New Year resolutions? What do you have? Are you letting the cat out of the bag?
No.
What's going on 2022?
So 2022, I sold a lot in 2021. So 2022, boom, boom, boom. I'm releasing 3 movies this year. So we're gonna start off with Man of God, and then we'll move on to Collision, and then we'll move on to Fumilayo Ransome-Kuti when that is ready. But you'll hear from those who are going to be distributing it when the time is right. Yes, and then stage play, we have 2 stage plays again this year, Easter and Christmas. So we hope to see everybody.
Well, I don't know if you've heard, but it's a streaming service. One of the hottest in Africa at the moment. It's the Arise Play streaming service. When is Bolanle Austen-Peters production coming on Arise Play?
Anytime you invite me and you pay right, I'll be there in a jiffy.
Great. It'll be great to have you. Thank you so much, Bolanle. This has been a fantastic conversation with you today. I had so much fun, and I do hope that our viewers had fun as well.
Thank you.
Bolanle Austen-Peters, the
wonderful
queen
being here.
of Nigerian theatre. Do you have a lovely weekend?